Do you know that New York's had 3 different names over its existence? If you know a little bit of a history of the city, you probably know that it was originally founded as New Amsterdam by the Dutch about 400 years ago. Then the English sailed in 1664, took over and renamed it New York. But it's also had one other name. The year is 1673, and war has once again broken out between the English and the Dutch. The Third Anglo-Dutch War would take place in Europe, but also in the Americas. In the Netherlands, 2 provinces have been vying for supremacy in the country. Holland, with its capital in Amsterdam, is Republican and skeptical of monarchy, while Zeeland is firmly monarchist. The monarch in this case being Prince Wilhelm III of Orange. With war raging, Zeeland sees this as an opportunity to boost its position. So they send ships up across the Atlantic to plunder from English colonies and bring riches for the war effort. A fleet travels up through the Caribbean and then up the east coast of North America, marauding and pillaging as it goes. When they reach Virginia, they learn that the English governor of the New York colony happens to be away from there, and so they seize the opportunity. They arrive in New York with 19 ships and 600 troops on July 30th, 1673, and meeting just token resistance, retake the colony. The colonists, many of whom are still Dutch of course, actually welcome in this army and expect a return of the kind of staid Dutch rule from earlier. But it doesn't turn out that way. The new Governor General of the colony is Anthony Colve, 30 years old, a career soldier. In honor of the prince, the colony is renamed New Orange instead of reverting to New Amsterdam, since the latter name would of course honor the city of Zeeland's rivals, Holland. As it turns out, Colve is not only a supporter of a monarch, but a despot himself. Although there is a city council here composed of residents, he bullies them into submission and then runs the colony as a dictator. He imposes a harsh martial rule of the colony, meting out severe punishment for any number of infractions, like taking the Lord's name in vain, uttering words of sedition, mutiny, or disobedience, or even just hearing them and not reporting them to authorities carries a death sentence. He's especially suspicious of the colony's English residents, some of whom are expelled, others of whom he thinks are spies, and they're tortured and questioned. Even Dutch who associate with the English are under suspicion. Worried that the newly retaken colony is vulnerable to attack, he bolsters its defenses. He reinforces the wall that already stood here on today's Wall Street, including 2 giant stone bastions, and strengthens coastal defenses. Wealthy residents are forced to hand over extra money to pay for it all. Of course, these defenses also allow him to control who leaves the colony as much as who gets in. It becomes a military stronghold that strangles the previously thriving maritime commerce. In the end, Colve's reign comes to a close with a whimper. After about 15 months, the Third Anglo-Dutch War ends and the colony goes back to England by treaty. Colve reluctantly hands it over in November 1674. Departs for the newly acquired Dutch colony of Suriname. Later he returns to the Netherlands where he dies in 1693. Of course, New York reverts back to its original name in 1674. But in a funny twist, 14 years later, New Yorkers discover they have a new king, none other than Colve's old favorite, Prince William III of Orange, for whom the city was briefly named. In 1688, he becomes King William III of England, pushing out James II, formerly Duke of York, for whom New York was and is still named.